I enjoy hearing it, and I'm looking forward to it. So everybody, here's Phil.
Hi, Phil.
My name's Phil. I'm an addict. Hi, Phil. When Brian came up to me at 9 o'clock last night and said, which workshop you going to do? I said, pick one. Here I am. Besides being an addict, I turned 52 years old on the 17th. I'm a father of 3, grandfather of 4. I will be married 31 years this November. I'm a Vietnam vet. And the way things seem to be going right now, on August 18th of this year, I will celebrate 19 years of freedom from active addiction. So to try and put into my experiences into a few minutes of how I've had to spell relief from the many things that they say don't use no matter what. There's so many no matter whats that have happened, which for a lot of people would. Just talking about them, sometimes people have said, I wouldn't have made it. And I tell them, well, I ain't got any other choice. I got nowhere left to go. This is it. They say there's 3 ways out of this disease. As we know, jails, institutions, and death. I was in military prison for attempted murder. I've been institutionalized twice, and in 1969 over in Nam, I banged enough opium that I stopped my heart, and they pronounced me dead for a while. So my list of yets is not that far, not that long. So what I'll try to do, what I will do, I very rarely write things down that I'm going to talk about, but there's 4 things in particular that came to mind when I was thinking about that I really, really had to seek relief from, that I really had to dig deep and use all resources that were available to me in recovery. Shortly after I got into the program, some of you that heard my wife talking this morning, she mentioned when we moved in with my grandfather, when I had just a little over a year clean. And it was summertime, and I was getting ready. The area had just formed up where we live. It had just started, and I was on my way to one of the first area meetings. It was in the summer. The front door was open, and I was buttoning my shirt, and I heard a car lock up its brakes and slide, and I ran to the front door and watched my youngest daughter get hit by a car and sent sailing through the air. And one of the biggest things I've learned is that I operate real well in chaos. It's when it's calm and quiet that I get into trouble sometimes. Not so much anymore, but I can think and act and do very well on my feet, moving, running, whatever you want to call it. So I ran outside, and Jenny was 3 or 4 years old at the time, and it knocked her out of her shoes. She had 2 little ponytails. It knocked one of those out. And to look at her on the outside, she just had a couple scrapes and stuff. But when she sat up, blood come gushing out her mouth, and I was like, oh shit, this kid's busted inside. And I put my hands on her, and I prayed, God, tell me what to do with this child. And what I saw was an incident that happened to us when I was over in the Nam, and we got hit, and a guy got busted up pretty bad. The post got hit, and we put him in a Jeep and sat him up in the Jeep and drove him to the hospital, and the post hospital. By the time we got there, he was dead. And they told us, had we left him flat, he would have been busted up, but he might have made it, because when we sat him up, the blood filled up in his lungs. I don't know the difference, but that's what they told us. He choked to death on his own blood in his lungs, and that's the instance I saw. So my wife and my other children were in panic on the side of on the sidewalk. Jenny, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it also, God revealed to me at that point, act quick. So I put her in the car. In the back seat, and I told Judy, keep her flat. At that point, we lived maybe not even 5 minutes, just normal driving from the hospital. We weren't even halfway there, and Jennifer says, oh, heaven is beautiful. I just want to go for a little while. I promise I'll come back. And I told Judy, I said, keep her talking, and then I really hit the gas pedal. She's okay today. We had a big problem after that, because they told us for 48 hours she was critical, they couldn't guarantee life, death, whatever. They just didn't know. She was busted inside pretty bad, kidney, concussion, collapsed lung. And the irony of it, I have questioned this one. I've really questioned this. The irony of it is she was hit by a drunk driver. And I've asked God, I says, are you doing this as a lesson? You know, not that I believe anymore that God punishes that. It's not part of my belief system. But that was so hard for me because we have 3 children, and that was my little helper. And that was probably the first time that I experienced a powerlessness other than my own addiction, because I could do nothing for this child. And I had to reach out. And for 2 days, I was going to the meetings when I could. When I wasn't working, I'd go to a meeting. We'd be at the hospital. I was talking with my sponsor. I was using every support system I had to help me get me through that. A little more time went by, quite a bit of time, and my older daughter Becky got raped, and that was real hard for us. As my wife was talking this morning, I was remembering some of these times for us. And we found out on a Saturday night. It happened on a Friday, and a common thing that happens with rape victims is they usually wash the clothing real good, or literally burn it or destroy it and get rid of it, and wash themselves up real good. And dealing with my own abuse issues, I related to all that very well. As I remember, I felt real dirty once I confronted that area of my life. So when she told us, my wife took her to the hospital, and they did, the rape kit. I believe that's literally what they called it. And my wife said that from her perspective, that was probably far more traumatic than the event. But I called my sponsor again. I went to meetings. I was talking about it. And I spent literally almost all of Sunday, that Sunday, on my front porch with my sponsor and a couple other people in recovery to help me get through it. And for at least 8 hours, they asked me what was I going to do? What did I want to do? And a lot of us in the program, our backgrounds ain't all that pretty, And a couple of my buddies, my biker buddies, they told me right out, Phil, whatever you want done, you just let us know. You won't be involved. And I had a real hard time not, giving them a name or an address, because we knew where the guy lived. Went to school with my daughter. And then, like I say, after about 6 or 8 hours, my sponsor said, "What are you going to do, Phil?" And my heart was just ripped out, man. But, those of you that have daughters, your worst fears. That was a very hard time. And Becky locked up pretty good after that. She already was the quiet child of our 3, but she locked up even more for a while. So, again, I used my support systems in the program. My sponsor, working the steps, calling people. Once the word was out that I needed help, that something had happened, people just showed up. They just came by. Another thing that I had to seek relief, a very deep type of relief through. About 4 years ago, I started going into petit mal seizures. I was going into seizures. I had no indication when they were coming. I had no warning. I could be at the work. I could be at home. I could be driving the car, and it got to the point where my job would not let me come until it was found out what was wrong with me. And during the course of approximately 6 or 8 months of testing, they found out I'm borderline diabetic, which I went to meetings and talked about. I've dropped 30 pounds since then. And after all the testing they could send me through, my own personal doctor, we go in and see him, and he says, "Phil, I think you got this thing called Shy-Drager syndrome." So I said, "Well, okay, what's the prognosis?" And he says, "There ain't none. You got about 2 years left." And I had a real hard time with that, real hard. I wasn't working, and still to this day sometimes, if I ain't working, in this particular instance, I'm in this guy body here, Sometimes I don't feel like I'm worthless, like I'm worth something unless I'm doing something like work. So I really had to dig deep. I really had to look for some kind of relief. And I had already started a very deep types of meditation, different types of prayer work and things. And I started openly speaking them, but the whole time I was really pissed at God. I was really pissed. I remember screaming, you've brought me this far. You brought me this far for this shit. I do what you want. I worked at a job where I made only about $8.52 an hour because I feel they told me to go to work there. I worked in a detox unit for 3.5 years, right on the battle lines, brothers and sisters. Saw them every day. And they said that I had to go to Mayo Clinic. There was 2 doctors in the world that knew something about this disease, and I had to go to the Mayo Clinic. And they told me that in January, and because I wasn't like dying at that moment, although he had told me I had about 2 years to live, I had to go on a waiting list. And some time went by, and they said, okay, your appointment is in May. So I spent from January to May. I'm not working, so I'm thinking, okay, how can I get all these bills down to where my wife can live after I'm gone? And I was going to meetings, and I was talking about it, and people that had known me since the whole time I come into the fellowship, I'd be sitting in a meeting, and I'd go into multiple seizures, and I couldn't maintain. When I would be like that, my wife would have to cut my food. That was very humbling. She'd have to cut my food. I couldn't cut food. It was terrible. So what I did for relief was I went way deep. I went into that spot that I had only heard about in theory, and I had a screaming match with God. I mean a screaming match. I was screaming at God. And God said, do you want to live or die? I said, I want to live, God. And he said, so be it. Truth, friend. And I'm sitting here. 2 years ago, I should have been gone. I needed a lot of relief on that one. And being that she said 20 minutes, and I'm not really paying attention to my watch, the last one I want to talk about, how do I spell relief? And it was the wrong type of relief. During that period when I was sick, and I thought I was dying, I thought that there was something missing in my life. My life just was not complete. What I know now, it was my spirit wanting to be fed again. Because I don't know about anybody else, but I'll kick it in the ass and get a little spiritual and pray and meditate regularly, and then I'll slack off, and then I'll hit it, and then I'll slack off. I was going to say coast, but brothers and sisters, we don't coast. We ain't allowed that luxury. We go the other way. We're either going that way or that way. Ain't no coast for us. That's just how that is. So I started thinking that maybe another woman was what I was missing. I felt that my wife wasn't validating my new belief systems. I wasn't getting the support I needed. What I know now is it was the disease trying to play me again. If it can't get me one way, it'll get me another. Every time I work on an area and start getting a little bit better in it, the disease goes, shit. But I'll find another way, because it's given all power. We forget that sometimes. So I started seeing this other girl, and while it was going on, every time I saw her, I'm going, this ain't right. This just ain't right. This ain't it. This ain't what's missing. And I realized, again I realized, it ain't out there. My relief is not out there. There is nothing. There is no amount of money, no woman, no house, car, bike. There is nothing out there that will fill this hole. So like I said, I got into very, very deep meditations, things I had only read about and understood only in theory, and I started really dumping all that shit that I walked in here with. This is after years in the program, multiple years. And I started to feel something inside. I started to feel what I believe to be the love of my higher power. that God is. That's how I believe it. And then I started emanating that, and I realized what I was doing was absolutely not what I was seeking. So many times my spirit has called out, and I mistook it for something else. And it must be this. It must be this. So what I really had to seek relief from was go back to God, which I talk to God like He's sitting here. I'll be walking down the aisle at work talking. They say, "Who are you talking to?" And I tell them God. Some of I won't go into too much detail on them, because some of the type of prayer work and affirmations and statements that I do daily, I was speaking openly out loud, and a lot of friends in my own area, my own community, started labeling me insane. And I said, well, I guess it's okay just to read about it. It just ain't okay to do it and say it, huh? So, my ultimate relief for any problem I've ever had since I came into this program has been God, has been to surrender. Now, there's been many times I've known that the ultimate relief was to surrender, and then I would find out what the answer is. So long as I'm actively going crazy and running around and trying to fix something, I usually don't get the answer. It's when I slow down, go, hey, how about some help here? I just recently saw that movie 28 Days. I'm not endorsing nothing. And that scene where the girl is trying to lift the horse's foot up, and she goes, how about some help? And the horse looks at her, and then she picks the foot up. I was like, oh man, how many of those have been revealed to me? How about some help? One of my absolute best friends in the world, this is a true story. His name is Phil, same name as me. He's got 21 years. He's one of my two sponsors. I have two sponsors. They're the only two people that were around in my area that I see sometimes. All them other people are gone, and I miss them. We're working on a car. This is an absolutely true story. We're working on a car, and Phil will do battle with God openly. He blows off, and people get real scared by what he does, but that's how Phil vents. So the job ain't going right on this car, and I'm helping him, and we're busting our hands. And he screams at God. He says, what else, God? What else you got? What are you going to give me? And I swear one cloud came along, and a monsoon poured down upon us. This is true. And I said, Phil, don't yell at God anymore till we get this car done. That is a true story. So as I said a few moments ago, my ultimate relief has been the surrender. The initial one when I came around, keep me straight, God. Keep me straight. They say around here, don't make deals, but I did. On my knees, beside a bed in detox, a 4-bed ward with 2 guys strapped down screaming. I prayed 2 things. You keep me straight, God, and I will do whatever you command me to do. And the other one was, don't let them strap me down. So I made that deal with God, and when I forget, God reminds me. And my awareness has increased to the point that I know when He's talking. I know it. I hear it in here. I hear it here. I hear it when you speak. I just had to realize it. And I do not always instantly surrender. I do not always go for that relief of the surrender. Sometimes I still yell and kick and get my hands bloody. I go, okay. Oh, I got more time? This is my timekeeper. I only wrote 4 things down. Okay. That's all I was ready to say. My wife and I we are a true miracle of this fellowship. We will celebrate 31 years of marriage this November. Sweet. We used together. We got straight at different times and have stayed together. And let me tell you, the most work I've ever had to do on anything is our relationship. The hardest work. It ain't always been easy. but it's always been us. I got to a point where I finally had to quit working the program for her and vice versa. Where we both have said, you work the steps, I'll work the steps. Together we'll get healthier. For a while it wasn't that way. I blew off the first 10 years around here. There's a workshop, I am addicted to service. Man, I was doing so much. When I got straight, there was 2 NA meetings, that was it. Formed an area, everything was growing. There was no picnics or functions. All you newer addicts say, you're so lucky. You are so lucky. There's so much to do today. That wasn't happening a while back. I can still see Jenny getting hit by that car. That shit's all still filed away. I still know how to lie, steal, rip and run. It's all still there. The steps and the surrender help keep that in check. The disease never goes away. It says that in our literature. It's just waiting right here. Heard an addict say one day, same disease, different coat. I was like, hey, yeah. My wife also had 3 surgeries for cancer. Man, let me tell you. Whew. I don't know about any of you, but where my heart is connected, I sometimes have a problem making a healthy decision. Once I learned what those were. I remember the night she asked me if I would love her without a breast. Honey, I love you. The icing on the cake was just part of it. And I feel that today as a result of my initial surrender. That first one just keep me straight. I come in this fellowship and, we'll love you till you love yourself. Keep coming back. Talk about things, work the steps, go to meetings. And I'm thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. I just know if I came here, I might stand a chance. And I've been coming ever since pretty regularly. But like I say, about 10 years, like most of us in the first couple years, it was gung-ho, NA, everything, man. Then we got a little money, inherited a business. I said, thank you very much, God, for all you brought me. I'll talk to you again when I need you. And at 10 years straight, I signed myself into a psych ward. I woke up in so much fucking... Sometimes I bring it to the street, I woke up in so much emotional pain as a result of stopping doing those basics that I initially surrendered to, that I learned in 30 days, the first 30 days. I wasn't calling my sponsor. I wasn't going to meetings. I wasn't talking to anybody about what was going on, because I thought I had arrived at a place called recovery. And the place that I had arrived at was insanity again. It was nuts. After I got out of the psych ward, my wife told me that I had become so controlling, straight, that she was ready to walk. So again, I put effort into it. It ain't all been easy, but it's been about life. I think the most often brought up topic besides relationships in the program is life on life's terms, and I have drastically changed my perspective of life. Ain't nobody out to get me anymore. I'm not trying to screw the system. Life just is, and it is what I make and I choose of it. I was thinking last night after Brian asked me, man, I can remember how much hate I had in my heart once. How much hate. It's all consuming. If they could see me now, some people that I talk to today, and they hear little bits about me, they go, you were like that? Yeah. You wouldn't have wanted to have known me then. It wasn't pretty. So my relief, although it has been delayed by my own will several times, has been the surrender. The first one was just keep me straight, and so many more after that. I can't take this. I can't do this. Help me again. And I am at a point now in my life and in my recovery where, the 11th step talks about conscious contact. I talk to God so much. And He speaks back, and I listen, and I know it. It says, knowledge of His will and the power to carry it out. God has revealed His, her, Yahweh, Buddha, White Buffalo, Great Spirit, Goddess. I don't care what you call it. It's all God anyway. That's all there is. It's all God. His will has been revealed to me, and I definitely need the power to carry it out. So how do I spell relief? Surrender. Quit fighting. I'm here to tell you, brothers and sisters, you ain't going to get nowhere. You ain't going to get nowhere. You're going to get dead. Those around you are going to get dead. Some of the people some of us hung with, you may not be the one doing your family damage, but they sure might. I don't know about a lot of you, but that's some of the people I hung with. As a lesson to you, they'll leave you alone and do your family. And here I sit before all you absolutely beautiful, blessed, intelligent children of God, so deeply loved. Relief, surrender, quit fighting. Everything, I mean every bit of your life. Made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand Him. That's everything I think, everything I do, everybody I come in contact with, my wife, my children, my job. That's my will and my life. I got to turn that over to something I can't see, feel, or touch. And I do today. You guide me, you direct me, you tell me what to do. Because I surrender. I've just had it. So I don't know if I talk 20 minutes, but how I seek relief today at this point in my life. Somebody will be saying something, or I'll see something going on. Go ahead. I ain't getting in there no more. I know it when it's coming a mile off. I ain't playing. You want to run into the wall, you go right ahead. You ask me to help you move that wall or stop, then I will. It ain't my job to fix anybody unless they go, help. I didn't know that for 10 or 11 years around here. So my relief is the surrender and knowledge of God's will and the power to carry it out. Because if you really, truly do surrender, those other two things will be revealed to you. And the ones that don't, I know everybody sitting in this room has got somebody back out there on the street, whether it was a newcomer, a family member, someone you really cared about. I know everybody sitting here knows somebody that ain't here right now because they went back out for one reason or another, because they didn't surrender. They ain't done yet. And sometimes that's hard for us. So, my name is Phil, and I'm an addict. That's all. Thanks, Phil. You're welcome.
I knew I'd enjoy that. Okay, everybody. This next speaker introduced me to a really kick convention in Rockford, South Beloit, and I'm looking forward to hearing him speak. And here's Paul S.
I'm an addict. My name's Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Kind of sucks going second because, like what he said, I mean, I can take most of his list that he's got wrote there, and yeah, you know, even the way he started. I came in last night, and Brian walked up to me probably at 8:55. And he said, "What workshop you want to do?" And he showed me this list, and I'm like, no, I can't do it like that. I said, "How many spaces you got?" He said, 6. And I called somebody else over, and I said, "Pick a number between 1 and 6. So this is where I'm at. It keeps me completely out of it and lets God in. When I was in active addiction, the way I spelled relief was escape and avoidance. That's the only way I knew how to deal was not to deal. And since I've been in recovery, I have learned to deal using the tools that recovery has given me. And I've been thinking about this since last night. If I could sum up how I spell relief, it would be surrender. I very strongly believe that at the moment of complete surrender, there's a solution. Every time. Every time. I can relate so much to what Phil shared about, because I have a daughter, and I have a daughter who was raped, and I am a biker, and the things we do is castrate, and that was my first instinct, was get this punk and castrate him, he'll never rape nobody else. And the people in this fellowship kept me from doing that. And I just helped her through it. And I tried to get her to understand that no matter how negative a situation is that we live through, try to find some good in it. Everything happens for a reason. Nothing happens by coincidence. I believe that. And she's like, well, what could ever be good out of that? Well, nothing out of the act itself, but what may be positive out of that is the things that you can share to someone else when they come to you and say, this is what happened to me. How'd you survive it? Shortly after that, I mean, we were still like dealing with that. And what really sucked about that is, like, I lived 400 miles away from my daughter. And I had to do a lot of this long distance, weekend trips, things like that, because her mother is still in active addiction and is a firm believer in escape and avoidance. If you sweep it far enough under the rug, you don't have to deal with it. You know, and I have seen women in the fellowship that tried that when had things happen to them when they were young, and invariably when they're 30, 35 years old, it comes up again, they have to face it, and it's 10 times as bad, from what I understand. So I try to get her to deal with it now, face it now, get through it and get past it, because we have to deal with it. We have to surrender to it. We have to accept it and surrender to it, because recovery is an ongoing process of awareness, surrender, and growth. It says it right here in the instruction manual. Shortly after this incident, I came home from work, turned on the news as I usually do, sit down, grab a pop, relaxing, and the news came on, and it was a front page story about a school shooting in my kid's hometown. And I'm thinking, it's got to be the city school, the inner city school. It's got to be. My kids go to an way on the outskirts in the cornfield school, you know, and it can't be there. And I never gave it a second thought. And then they showed the sign of the school where it was at, and it was my kid's school. And I lost it. It's like right away I grabbed the phone, I started calling. All the lines were tied up. I couldn't get through, and like I was in the dark for probably 6 hours as to whether my kids were alive or not, if they were involved in it or anything. I had no clue. I had no way to get a hold of anybody down there. I finally found out, and my daughter was standing right next to a girl that caught a bullet and died. She died in my daughter's hands. That was scary as hell. You know, and again, it was like trying to find some positive in it, accepting that, yeah, this happened, and surrendering to the fact that, you know, what can I do about this? You know, and all I could do was was support her. I took off a couple days' work and I went down there and supported her through the funeral and everything. And several events like that, real, and like it says in our text, the real big ones, we usually don't have a problem with. I know I don't have a problem with them because it's like getting hit in the head with a 2x4. You know that I need to do this. You know, it's the guy in the car that cuts you off on the highway when all of this goes right out the window, and if I had a handgun under my seat, I'd probably pop a cap in his ass. You know, how dare you? You know, I mean, it all just goes. That's where I have the hardest part is the little things, dealing with the little day-to-day stuff, surrendering to that. I had, when I first got here, I didn't have a higher power. The God that I grew up with, I no longer accepted. There were some events that happened in my life, and it was like, no, if he was really a God, this shit would have never happened, and screw that, I ain't buying it. And in working the steps with my first sponsor, I had to actually write out a letter of resignation to my first God, the God that I grew up with, and then did an application kind of deal, like a job requirement for what I believe the next one should have, and that's the one I have today. I don't believe that God just sits up there and deals us shit cards. You know, I don't buy that. It's life on life's terms. You know, I don't think that God put a handgun in this guy's hand and made him start shooting kids in school. The kid did that. You know, I just don't buy that. God gives us all self-will. And life happens. I don't buy that saying shit happens either. I think shit's made. It doesn't just miraculously appear. It's an end result of someone's actions or inactions. And the relief that I can find today is all about that surrender. Accepting that it is the way it is. I don't even have to know why today. Sometimes I want to. Probably a lot of times I want to. But I know in my head that I don't have to. I don't have to know why. If I understand that God produced and directed the movie and he knows how it's going to end, I don't have to. I just have to play my part in it. You know, and if this is what the script calls for me to do today, then this is what I do today, and have faith that it's all going to turn out, the ending is going to be the way he wants it to be. You know, I mean, I get a frame at a time of this movie is all I get. You know, and just have faith that God knows how it's going to all end, and accept it and surrender to it and be okay with it. Because I can beat my head against that wall until my head's bloody and all I've done is put a stain on the wall. You know, until I get my will out of the way and realize that I don't have to go through the wall there. A couple feet down, there's a doorway. I can just open it up and go. You know, that's kind of the way I look at it. God puts people in my life. I had the the experience, I guess. I have 2 kids, 18, 20 years old, and about 9 months ago, well, actually about a year ago, they decided to come live with me, and it's like it was way cool. It's like I've been waiting all my life for that to happen, you know. I was kept being told, you just surrender to it and accept it, and you do the things that you need to do, and eventually these kids will come around, and they'll know. And they did, and they both came to live with me. They've been around active addiction their entire life. They have saw me in recovery, go through a lot of stuff in recovery, saw me through getting clean and everything, and on the flip side of that, they have seen and lived with their mother who was just steadily in active addiction. And when they came to live with me, it was completely different. 2 completely different homes, 2 completely different sets of rules. And occasionally, they would come to meetings with me and just sit and listen. And that was cool. And I went to one, I got ready to go to a meeting one night, and my daughter was off with somebody else, and my son said, "Can I go with you tonight?" Sure. So we took off to the meeting, and I said, I don't know why, but I asked him, I said, "So, are you going to get a white chip tonight or just listen?" He said, "Well, if I get a white chip, do I have to say I'm an addict?" I'm like, "No, I don't guess. If you don't want to, you don't have to, you know, and you don't have to get one just because I'm going or anything either. Just, you know, if you wanted to just sit and listen, just sit and listen." So we walked into the meeting, and then my daughter came in, and they both got picked up a white chip that night. And my son made it to almost 5 months clean before he decided to go out and get some more research. And my daughter made it to just over 8 months clean before she decided to go out and get some research. That was the toughest months of my life, was separating being a father and being an addict, just another addict in their lives. Because I wanted to cut their head open and pour it in, man. Because I knew what they needed to do, and I wanted to like spoon feed them until they puked on it. It was real hard for me to not do that. But I feel that I did a pretty good job of not doing it. And both of them made this choice to go back out. But the cool thing is when my son relapsed, he said, man, he was doing some drugs, and he said, I really screwed up his using it, because every time I would come into his head, and it was like, man, Dad, no offense, but you were like the last person I want to think about when I'm tripping, you know. And then my daughter, when she relapsed, she came back with the same thing. She says, I cannot get you people out of my head. Anything for you, honey. Anything we can do, we'll help you out. I mean, that's what I told them, you know. I surrender to that, and I can get relief from that, and knowing that they both know where it's at when they're ready for it. And all I can do is continue to be here to welcome them back when they choose to come back. This is an amazing thing. This whole Narcotics Anonymous and fellowship and sitting here in a room full of people, some of them I know, some of them I don't have a clue who you are. And I can share my guts with all of you and know, just by watching the heads bob up and down, that you understand. Because if you didn't understand, you wouldn't be sitting there. You know, we've all been down the same road. Some of it have went a little farther on that road than others, but we've all been down the same road. Every one of us. And at any point, we can choose to get off of that road and find recovery. One of my new favorite sayings, I saw it on a t-shirt at a convention recently, is if you want to know the answers, read the directions. If you want to find the solutions, it's all in here. This is how I spell relief. Narcotics Anonymous and surrender. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Paul. Before we open the floor for sharing, I need to remind everyone that you are being taped. If you wish not to be taped, please let the lady know and she'll shut off the tape. Anybody want to share? I'd love to hear some stuff.
I want to hear some, I just want to hear some feedback on what you do when somebody cuts you off. What kind of tools do you use? Because I have that same problem with driving and somebody pissing me off.
The thing is, my kid was in the car with me one time, and they were like, "Dad, aren't you going to flip him off or anything?" You know, and I must have been okay with where I was at that point, you know, that particular time or whatever. But I was like, why? What's it going to do? Oh yeah, that hurt him. you know, pardon my French here, but one of the coolest sayings I've ever heard is, "You think you can fuck with me? Watch me fuck with me." You know, and I kind of, for me, I just kind of look at what will it accomplish? Will it help the situation? You know, and your head thinks a hell of a lot faster than I can say it, and you can do all this that quick. You know, but what would it change? The guy's already cut you off. It's like, shit, and then it's over. I mean, that's pretty much the way I deal with it today. Bastard. Or whatever, you know, I mean, but ramming into him, you know, I mean, I drive a bike, and one of the things I used to do is carry BBs around with me. Not BBs, ball bearings. Somebody cut me off, I'll get in front of them, just drop it. That's all you got to do, and it'll bounce up and go through the windshield, radiator, something. Like, there you go, now cut me off. What good is it? Kick them and I'd go up beside them and put a big dent in their nice new Mercedes door or whatever, you know. What's it accomplish? Nothing. So why bother?
I've found that when I'm doing what I need to do, when I'm really practicing the principles in all my affairs, people cutting me off ain't a thing. If I got undealt with shit running through my head, stuff I know I should be doing, if I've made myself some list of stuff I should do and I ain't fulfilling it, then people cutting me off bothers me. And every now and then. And you know, they don't make hardly too many big cars anymore. I drive a 2000 Focus hatchback. This thing's like a small box, but I got the one with the bigger engine so I can catch up to them sometimes. It's my wife's car is bigger than my car. Although I'll tell you, a lot of times when I am driving my wife's car, if there's somebody else with me, most of the time it's different. Like I say, if my mind is straight, if I'm at peace with me and the world, then it don't bother me. It happened coming up here. I was going real slow down this road when we went into town to eat last night, and I guess one of the local people went flying around me, and I'm thinking, there's got to be people that, you know, live here, kids and stuff. And 3 seconds later, they're at the stop sign waiting. And I thought, oh, I'm glad you beat me here, you know. But I was in a real good space. I'm here. There's a consciousness out in the woods that is here that's not in the cities. In the cities, there's a consciousness, and that ain't like out here. So I was in a good frame of mind. I was at peace with things. So it didn't bother me that that person cut me off. Now, Monday night, they cut me off. I might try and catch them at my little red car. I quit carrying a tire iron. I used to go that route. But if everything's all right, then it don't bother me. I sometimes actually bless them. I sometimes actually drive speed limit in the middle lane, as opposed to probably never doing that before. So that some of the time, at least, the program's working, and where my part is concerned, some of the times as a result of practicing the principles, the road's a little safer, but not all the time. A lot of times when things happen or what negativity confronts me, I don't start going, "Our Father who art in heaven." My first thought is, "You mother." I go, "Well, hold it. I remember. You made them too." "Okay, I remember. You made them too." So I hope that was some input for you.
There's a prayer for that. God bless them and give them everything they need to be happy, joyous, and free.
Yeah, cool.
My name's Bob. I'm a grateful recovering addict.
Hey, Bob.
Something my sponsor said kind of helps me in that situation, and that's how many people cut you off a year ago today, and do you remember who they are? I can't remember what happened yesterday, let alone a year ago, so why am I going to let this guy live rent-free in my head today, and get underneath my skin? And some days I do better at it than others, Some days I have a little bit better serenity than I do other days. And something else that he said that helps me with relief, when I came here, I didn't have a God. I believed in Perry Mason. I was like you. I gave him my lawyer's card, and I either did the time or I got out of it. And he told me today, if you don't have a God of your understanding, you can borrow mine until you find yours. And, that made sense when I first got it coming here, and it still makes sense today. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, my name's Rick.
Hey, Rick.
Thanks for sharing. I know a lot of relief is in my life when I'm not so upset, and I was like doing a little journaling, and I saw a little caretaking there. And when he was sharing about his daughter and his son, I could identify, because I got a lot of nieces and nephews, and I'm real close to one of my nieces, but she moved to Minnesota and she started experimenting. And I'm real close to my mama, and I hate to see her upset, and I had my acceptance level wasn't there, because I know I can take things to the extreme, and when I have to be fitting for prayer. And I know today that me being the addict that I am, and the self-centered nature, and the self-will that comes uninvited, just like Scotch tape, and then celebrating this cleaning time, everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. Because when I get to the end, I finally get to the solution. Because I'm like, I have to get somewhere and quiet down my mind. But if I don't, these thoughts will run rampant. And then I just want to go down to Minnesota and I'm going to straighten it out. Because my little niece is talking about killing her mama when she goes to sleep and cutting her baby out. So I started thinking Charles Manson. I'm in Indiana, ready to go to Minnesota. I ain't got no flight money, but I'm ready to go. Then I got a lot of sisters in my family. And I got to know how to separate, and I got to know how to really let go and let God. I mean, really. Because it's easy to say it. Like he talks about in the 8 words high and wide. I can make the decision, but can I live with it? Because the proof is in the living. And that's why I'm grateful for sponsorees and sponsors and a network of other people. And I do a lot of walking. And a lot of times, I get in touch with nature sometimes by just looking up at the sky. To be the age I am, I'm pretty healthy. And it's just so many things that happen. That's why sometimes I'll go away. Like this morning, I went over to the lake. I just need to get tapped in for a minute. Because I know this mind of mine is a very bad enemy at times. It'll conjure up stuff. Oh, that's how they thinking about you like that. Everybody's thinking about me, you know, and that's why I know I gotta stay in recovery. You know, I gotta make meetings. If I go to a meeting, let you come and just say one of my grandsons, he went back out, but he's the one boosting me to come here. And he's missing in action, he's not here. You know, and a lot of times, things happen. One of my stars sees he was doing real good, did so good, he got a fixed idea, he started selling dope. Now he's over there in MCC, and his mama called me. She said, what about that little short guy that wearing yellow glasses? She didn't know my name, but she knew something about me, and it made me feel good that I had to let go of the situation, because I came across his fiance, and she gave me the address and stuff, and I had wrote, and I got a little relief from it, because sometimes I know when a person relapses, it affects the whole fellowship, especially when you have got bonded with them. But I hope nobody don't shine me if I went back out there. You know, and I'm grateful for the connection of NA and the common welfare because I value in being me. I found God right in these rooms. And I come from a family of a lot of ministers and all of that. You know, and today, no matter what happens, if I can be still and be still. Because I know when I show up, God will show out. And I have to keep that up now, because this little thing here, I ain't always got to go up in my head. I can go up in there and get some serenity too. My sleep, seems like anywhere I go, whenever I go somewhere else, I don't never get that first night's sleep. It always seems like it comes like that the last day. And then I get released by Monday or Tuesday. And I don't know, I was glad to see Phil here share something. And that kind of made me feel, it gave me a little relief. That's my sponsor, and he shared something. And I felt connected about that, you know, because I never thought I'd be in the recovery going on almost 17 years. Whoa. I was a real basket case. So I know God can straighten things out. And because I deal with a lot of people. And I'm glad that I can be open-minded, because I know open-minded is omnipotence to make me whole. And I have to sometimes go into this divine solution and get to myself. Get out of self. What they saying, think of self less and love yourself more. And then I get released from that when I really put the humility where it needs to be, and the end result to get honest. You know, I'm just grateful to be here again, and grateful to hear both people speak. The little bit that I did here, that's all I needed. It gave me that spiritual shot that I needed. You know, and I know today that this program and the many people that I've met on my journey, the journey still goes on. A lot of people that I've known, and to be honest, I miss some people because they went back out there and they died from the horrors of addiction. I know a lot of old timers, they don't even come to meetings. I'm in church now. I said, that's good, but you're an addict. You know, and I'm not knocking, but I miss them. Because now you go to meetings, now they might get to fighting and all, and I can release it. I want to stop it right there. You know, it doesn't go that way. And you got a lot of young ones coming in, and I got to realize, surrender to it, accept it, and have some tolerance and patience, and some love. On the real deal, you know, and even in my community, I want to stop him from selling dope down the street of my house. Rick's here. You know, leave him alone, you know, but I don't know. I made a choice is mine today. And today I'll be me. Because my arms are too short to box with the high power. I don't have no chump God. He ain't no punk. He don't do score nothing. And it seems like he let me go through all of that. Then at the end, it was like, all you have to do is keep it simple and spiritual. You know, and in that traffic thing, get out the car and speak for, hey, how you doing? Hello. Every good man. You know, the road rage ain't nothing nice now. It's just radio. Have a nice day. You know, but I ride with some people, and I'm a hut. I went to a midnight meeting one night, and the guy tried to go around the guy in that big diesel truck. That big diesel truck went like that. I thought, see, God trying to wake you up. So leave him alone. And then drive safe. You know, so I know today, life is too short. And I believe what it says in the first tradition, the group is precious to the individual, and the individual is precious to the group. And today I try to stand there, because I know the traditions bring about character in my life. And I have to surrender to me, my behavior, not your behavior. Because when I get I know in the book it talks about we get sick ourselves in a short time. And you know how you get close to your mama. And one day it came in, am I like my mother, or am I like my father? And I have to leave that alone. I got some folks, and I'm just glad that everything is what it's supposed to be. When I stay out of the way, it goes a whole lot better. It's like that water out there. It's like you see that duck go down that pond. He be like, he calm, cool, and like, go on that water. He does it for the rest of his life. Like my man say, well, I gotta let it go. But if I don't like jail time. You get jail time for clean time too. You know, and I ain't been in no jail. Only time I get in jail is when I get locked into my own thinking and my behavior. When I isolate. That's why I know I need to be. I like to feel, because you can feel some peace. That's why I like to walk away sometimes and just get connected to the juice. Because my half I don't be like wearing gym shoes, water boots, or whatever. I gotta wear army clothes down there. Sometimes I put this on, I think I'm back in the suburbs. I better get the stepping, you know, but I don't know. I'm just glad I'm here. Tell about it. Give yourself a break. And I pray for folks when they go back out. Because they will come back. I know I got some nieces and nephews, the little babies, I can see their attitudes already. I'm a great uncle and an uncle. You know, and I got little nephews like on the holidays, come on Memorial Day, they can make their girls, they can get their what they smoke little blunts. You know, I just look at it, I said, I'm waiting for y'all. I gave one of my nephews the Baby Taste is a great novel. You know, and I laughed at him, you know, and I said, well, I gotta look at me and him, and you know, this program is great. I want to thank both people for sharing what I've had.
Thanks, Ricky. Thanks.
My name's David, I'm an addict.
David?
Got tons I thought I could share, but I wasn't going to. I just was enjoying listening, and then I thought about kind of an answer to the question about the whole road rage thing, and the hate that's in me, and that well, hell, it's real easy for me sometimes to just try and breathe it away and pretend that I'm all spiritual and shit. And it all starts with admitting, and there was a long stretch where, I was a fuddy-duddy driver, just needle pinned on the speed limit and stuff, and I got there by admitting stuff to you guys, not pretending I didn't have hate in me, just doing other stuff. And I heard a lot of great stuff, and one of my favorite ones was recovery doesn't tell me I can't kill you today. It says today I don't have to. It gives me other things to do instead. It starts with letting you know what's going on inside of me and what I want to do, instead of pretending it's not happening. Even if I don't do it, that's willpower and that's self-discipline, and that stuff's all wonderful that I can pull it off for a while. But I can't keep that up alone. I drift on occasion. And I flipped the bird when I got cut off a few months ago. And I got shot at. And I wasn't alone in the car either, but I had a sunroof, so it was really very, very easy to fly it without it, discreetly. But it's really hard for, I thought a tire had blown or something, and I didn't see the gun. I didn't know what had happened. All I saw was this, truck just driving just about driving off the road as it's driving away. But I'm not, at this point, I'm not even wondering what's going on with them too much. I'm worried about what's happening with my car. And then I was informed that, for some reason, we had just been shot. And I was a suffering person that, in my suffering with my own shit and mixing my shit with their shit, it just got worse, And when I first got to a meeting that night, I didn't really want to talk about it. I didn't want to share about it. I didn't want to admit it, because, I just wanted to, kind of put it behind me and not entertain people in a meeting with, a bunch of drama and not be the center of attention and get off on that. And, not let people know that I'd flipped the bird. But yeah, it started with just opening up. It didn't start for me with being somewhere I wasn't or pretending I was somewhere I wasn't. It didn't start with recognizing that was another child of God, and that could be another suffering person. It didn't start with looking at myself and, hey, what about me and what have I been doing lately to be self-centered. It had to do with admitting how I'm doing right now. And then moving on from there, I guess. One more quick thing on how do you spell relief. To me, it starts with step one. I recently did this little thing where writing down the first step means da-da-da-da-da and just making a whole bunch of one-liners. I gave it to somebody else to kind of can you add a few? And they put down a few of them, and the last one they wrote was, there's more. I was like, well, I didn't get it at first. And I was like, oh, the first step means there's more steps. So it starts with admitting, but there's more. That's all I got.
Thanks, David.
Judy?
I was listening to everybody talking about the road rage and stuff like that. And for me, I just want to thank you both for sharing other stuff that you talked about, that deep, heavy stuff that you talked about, that gut stuff. The easy thing for me to do would be to comment about the road rage, because I've been there, done that, do it every day. But the deep, heavy stuff is the stuff that I can relate to. Of course, with you I can. But the fear of the unknown, not knowing, are they okay? Is it mine? What can I do? Nothing. And to share that, because it takes a lot of courage to sit up there and to do that. And I just want to thank both of you and give you honor and praise. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Thanks, Judy.
Thanks, Judy.
Hi, I'm Carrie Manette.
Carrie.
Ditto. I'm deep. Okay, let me close, please.